My name is Janine Boyer. I work in a family business and I'm married to my husband, Dave. We have 2 married children and a fluffy grand dog named Nala. For fun, I like to scratch things off my bucket list. And although I've already experienced the thrill of skydiving and taken my first hot air balloon ride, there are still many things I'd like to cross off that list. I also enjoy the simpler things in life, like going out to dinner with my husband and spending time with my family and friends.
I'm Shirley Brocious, a former business education teacher and director of Christian Ed, turned writer. My husband Bill and I have 2 married sons, 5 grandchildren, and a daughter waiting in heaven. For fun, I like to read, attend my grandchildren's concerts and sporting events, and someday I would love to compete on Wheel of Fortune.
My name's Kim Messinger. I'm a first grade teacher. My husband Matthew and I have 2 adult sons and 1 adorable grandson. We enjoy cooking, we enjoy doing mission work in Liberia, and traveling in the country and out of the country. For fun, I enjoy herb gardening. It keeps me busy in the summer.
Together, we are Friends of the Heart from Millersburg, Pennsylvania. We love to share God's love through messages, skits, and songs by Kim.
We began meeting as a small group in 1998 after Kim and Janine asked me to be their mentor. Our mentoring turned to ministry, and in 2006 we named ourselves Friends of the Heart and began leading women's retreats and other events. We've even written a book together, Turning Guilt Trips into Joy Rides. I also wrote Sisterhood of Faith. Both of these are devotional books, and they're available on our website, friendsoftheheart.us.
We've spoken to over 10,000 women in over 7 states. We'd love to do a women's retreat at your church or another type of program. We believe because we come from 2 generations, we just can relate to the different generations that would attend our events.
Many years ago, a secret sister gave me roses for my anniversary. I found them in the church foyer when I left the morning service. They were wrapped in that green florist paper, and I took them home and proudly displayed them on my dining room table. Now, the only problem was we were going to be leaving for hunting camp the next day, and I would have to leave my roses behind. I thought about taking them along, but with 2 boys and sleeping bags and groceries, I didn't think that was a good idea. But then I had a better idea. When I see flowers in gift shops, they're always in refrigerated cases, I would put my roses in the refrigerator. So I filled the vase with water, tippy-top full. It was full of that white packing material, and I set them in the refrigerator, and off we went to hunting camp. We came back about 3 days later, and as soon as we pulled in the driveway, as soon as I got out of the car, I made a beeline for that refrigerator to see how my roses were. I opened the door, and wow, they were just as beautiful as when I put them in there. I called my husband. I said, honey, come and look at these roses. They haven't wilted at all. And I set them on the dining room table. I said, it's almost as if they're, and I ran my hand behind a fern, artificial. And they were. I had been watering silk flowers. You know that television program, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? I had to look into the camera and say, I'm a college graduate, I teach high school students, but I can't tell the difference between an artificial rose and a real one. Now, I tell you that story because I want to talk to you this morning about a Bible woman who had a treasure in her closet, and she recognized the difference between using it for earthly purposes and using it for eternal purposes. That Bible woman's name was Mary. the sister of Martha and Lazarus.
I serve a God that can take a broken, sick, sad woman that was laying on a mat, making excuses for herself and expecting her life to change. He looked at her and he asked, "Do you want to be healed?" That woman put her hand in his, and because she was tired of being entrapped, Jesus lifted her up, and she said, "Yes. Yes, Jesus, I want to be healed. I know this is true because I'm standing here in front of you. If he can heal me, he can heal you because nothing is impossible for him." Ladies, are you making excuses about what's going on in your life? Are you expecting others to rush in and make things better? Are you entrapped by sadness, bitterness, or anger? If you are, you will never live with freedom in Christ. I don't know about you, but I can tell you this. In this very room, there is someone who understands what I'm talking about. There's someone so crippled by life events that they feel all they can do is be down and stay down and watch the world go by. I want to tell you something. Today is your day. God is reaching his hand down from heaven right now to you. He's calling you higher. He's here for you. He doesn't want your life closet crammed with emotional junk. Jesus died on the cross to make you free. Oh, it isn't always easy, but it is always good. If you don't say one day, "Today is the day I want to be healed. Nothing is impossible for you, Jesus," you will never know what you can do for yourself or others in the kingdom of Jesus Christ.
That one simple thing, how we see ourselves, our identity, I believe is at the root of most of the issues which prevent us from moving on in life. You see, how God sees us isn't the problem. It's how we see ourselves. We live in a world filled with advertising that tells us what we should look like, how we should act, even who we should be. And you know, if it's on Facebook or the internet, it's got to be true, doesn't it? You see, how we see ourselves, when we are bombarded with those messages often shape our identity and how we look at ourselves. Think about how often you might tell yourself, "Oh, I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not even godly enough." And those thoughts, they don't even have to be true to hurt us. All we have to do is believe them. I grew up as a tomboy, so the saying goes. See, I preferred racing my Batmobile down the hill than having tea parties with my Barbie. I was competitive, playing sports, and I was always much more comfortable wearing a hoodie and sweats than I was wearing a dress to school. And I was fine with that, until all of a sudden, people wondered whether I was a boy or a girl. Then I began to wonder if there was something wrong with me. Over the course of time, the feeling of not being feminine enough, good enough, smart enough, pretty enough, you see, those messages began to become the perception that I shaped about myself. And I was actually feeding into that negative perception with how I would respond to people. Although I wasn't doing it intentionally, I literally began to carry those messages around with me like a heavy suitcase everywhere I went. Over the course of time, they began to shape my identity more and more. Can anybody else here relate to feeling something like that? Your messages might be different than mine. But have you ever felt like you couldn't do anything right? Have you ever felt that God couldn't use you? Or maybe even worse, that God wouldn't want to use you? Maybe you've always wanted to teach Sunday school, teach a Bible study, or even sing in the choir. But somewhere along the way, growing up, somebody told you would never amount to anything. So you decide not to volunteer. How about your physical appearance? Maybe somebody told you you weren't pretty enough or thin enough. Maybe there was a message that somebody in your family portrayed to you when you were a young girl. And because of that, you're afraid now to do anything publicly for God. You're afraid you'll be judged merely on how you look. So once again, you decide not to volunteer. Those beliefs are a slippery slope. They leave us lying at the bottom of the hill, struggling to get back up. You see, the reason each one of us has value is because of what God says about us, not because of what other people say about us. If God didn't want you to be you, you wouldn't even be here today. But He wanted you. That's why you are here.
Then Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had blessed his people in Judah by giving them good crops again. So she and her daughters got ready to leave Moab to return to her homeland. With her 2 daughters-in-law, she left the place where she had been living, and they took the road that would lead them back to Judah. But on the way, Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back to your mother's homes, and may the Lord reward you for your kindness to your husbands and to me. May the Lord bless you with the security of another marriage." Then she kissed them goodbye, and they all broke down and wept. "No," they said, "we want to go with you to your people." But Naomi replied, "Why should you go on with me? Can I still give birth to other sons who could grow up to be your husbands? No, of course not, my daughters. Return to your parents' homes, for I am too old to marry again. And even if it were possible and I were to get married tonight and bear sons, then what? Would you wait for them to grow up and refuse to marry someone else? No, of course not, my daughters. Things are far more bitter for me than for you, since the Lord himself has raised his fist against me." Then again they wept together, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye. But Ruth clung tightly to Naomi. "Look," Naomi said, "your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. You should do the same." But Ruth replied, "Don't ask me to leave you and turn back. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Wherever you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord punish me severely if I allow anything but death to separate us." When Naomi saw that Ruth was determined to go with her, she said nothing more. So the 2 of them continued on their journey. When they came to Bethlehem, the entire town was excited by their arrival. "Is it really Naomi?" the women asked. "Don't call me Naomi," she responded. "Instead, call me Mara, for the Almighty has made life very bitter for me. I went away full, and the Lord has brought me home empty. Why call me Naomi when the Lord has caused me to suffer, and the Almighty has sent such tragedy upon me?" So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by her daughter-in-law Ruth, the young Moabite woman. They arrived in Bethlehem in late spring at the beginning of the barley harvest.
Well, hello, Mary. It's so nice to have you here today. So tell me, how are you?
I'm upset. I'm upset.
I can see that. So
Yes.
what are you upset about?
Well, I have one sister, Martha. She's always doing, and she gets mad at me for sitting and studying and praying at the feet of Jesus. I also have one brother, Lazarus. He's sort of famous now ever since Jesus raised him from the dead. But me, I'm a snoodle.
Oh, a snoodle? What is a snoodle?
Well, I feel called to serve God, but a snoodle can't do anything right. I'm a snoodle.
Oh, what do you like to do?
Well, I like to read the Bible and study the Word and pray. I could read the Bible and pray all day long.
Oh, well, I mean, what's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that?
Yes.
What's wrong with that is at the end of the day, Martha has stood on the town square selling her sticky buns to raise money for the missions project.
Get them while they're hot.
She organizes racks of clothes for the Clothes Tree thrift shop, and then she goes out and leads a Bible study. Me, I read the Bible and pray all day. I don't accomplish anything. Zilch.
Well, hello, Martha. It's so good to see you today. So tell me, how are you doing?
I am tired.
Oh, why do you suppose you're so tired?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, how about we start by you telling me about your daily activities?
Well, the crack of dawn always wakens me.
Okay.
So I go out to the garden to meet with Jesus. And then while I'm there, I see the weeds, so I start pulling weeds. But I don't think Jesus minds that, do you?
No.
You know, work a little, talk a little, work a little, talk a little. It works for me.
Oh, so you get up early and you work in your garden and you pray?
Then I go down to church to type the bulletins.
Oh.
We fired our secretary, to save money, but somebody has to do it.
Oh,
And
sure.
I have a degree in typing. I am the logical choice. I can type 60 words a minute even faster now that we have computers.
Wow. Okay, so you weed the garden, then you type the bulletins. What else do you do?
Well, on the way home, I stopped to visit Gladys. She had an ingrown fingernail just last year, and she so loves when I pop in and get her lunch and tidy up her house.
I'm sure she does, yes.
And then I go home and take care of Lazarus and Mary. That Mary, she can't do a thing around the house. Don't tell her I said this.
Oh, no, strictly confidential?
It's not that she can't do anything, but she can't do anything right. When she bakes, she leaves a mess on the counter. When she washes, she forgets to add OxyClean.
Oh.
And when she cleans, I once found a family of dust bunnies living under my bed. That Mary, she's just no good around the house.
Wow, so you also take care of cleaning the house?
Oh, yes. It's my personal talent. I'm good at it.